Your ICA, they are evolving and they might evolve and move on from you. And that is okay. For 15 years, that's what happened to me. And I built a multi-million dollar business. But my heart, my mind started saying, I'm ready for more. So if you feel that way as well, do not ignore it.
My guest today is a dear friend of mine.
One of them goes, that one over there, she's big money. And it was my guest today.
Her name is Amy Porterfield.
Amy Porterfield, the ever amazing
best-selling author of 2 Weeks Notice, Miss Amy Porterfield.
I just got off of a Zoom call with my nephew Lance and some members of his fraternity. So Hobie and I do this really fun thing with our charitable giving. And one of the coolest things about being an entrepreneur is that you get to decide where you give money to, meaning the different causes that mean something to you and the charitable opportunities that come your way, which is very different when you work in an organization where that organization tends to make all the decisions on charitable giving. So one of my most favorite things is to talk to Hobie about where we want to give our money in terms of causes. So today, Lance, my nephew, presented with his fraternity brothers to see if we would give to their charity that they represent inside of their fraternity. In this case, it was the USO. Now, the reason why Lance prepared this presentation for us today is because he knew that my son, Cade, and my son's best friend from elementary school, they both were in 2 different fraternities, and they presented to Hobie and I as well to see if we would give to their fraternity charitable cause that they were representing. And usually every charity has one big cause that they focus on each year. And so anyway, we did it with Andres, Cade's best friend. Then we did it for Cade, and now we did it for Lance. But we say that you have to do like a formal presentation, and Hobie tends to be the deciding factor because he has the relationship with most of the boys. And so they show up in suits, they put together a presentation that they put together through Canva, and they all have kind of like a script and they're ready to talk. Like first the president talks, and then the treasurer talks, and then the secretary of the fraternity talks. So they've got it all dialed in. And it's been really, really fun to see these kids. They feel like kids to me, but now they're adults, young adults, show up and really make an effort to raise money for different charities. So today, Lance, our nephew, his goal is to raise $50,000 for the USO. And he presented in a way that he knew that Hobie was going to be the deciding factor. We just choose that. It's just kind of fun. Hobie and I have already talked before we get on the call. But I let him know, Uncle's going to be the deciding factor. So you better wow him tomorrow. And so they show up and they were very professional, but they geared their entire presentation toward Hobie. So they were raising money for the USO, and Hobie is former military. And then one of the kids, he actually went through firefighter school before he went to college. So he made sure to mention that because Hobie's a retired firefighter. So they had like little moments throughout their entire presentation that were kind of geared toward Hobie and making that connection. And I thought that was so incredibly smart of them. And so, of course, we gave. Our goal is always to see if we can give half of what they're trying to raise. So if they're trying to raise 50,000, we surprise them. They think we're going to give them a few $1,000s. And it's always fun to say, how about we cover half of your goal so that you can just focus on the other half? And so I haven't always been able to give a bunch of money, but as my business grows, that's something that is really important to us. So anyway, the funny thing is, Hobie said, okay, we're going to give you $25,000. But for some reason, the boys were very surprised by that. So they thought he made a mistake and he meant 2,500. So they were really happy about the 2,500. They didn't say anything, but they did look a little confused when we said the number. And I thought, oh, that's a weird reaction. So we got off the phone, and then I get a call from my nephew, and he's like, did you mean 2,500? You didn't mean 25,000, right? So these boys thought we were giving them 2,500. They were very excited about that. But I think they were a lot more excited when they realized we wanted to cut their goal in half with our charitable giving, which made it a lot more fun. But the reason I bring this up today is because what I loved about my nephew Lance's presentation is he knew his ideal customer avatar. He knew who he was talking to, and he made sure to address that throughout his entire presentation. Now, he personally probably didn't know anything about an ideal customer avatar, but he definitely worked it the right way. And I was just so impressed by that. And today we're going to be talking about your ideal customer avatar. So this episode is going to pull back the curtain on a completely reimagined approach to the customer journey. One that goes way beyond funnels and lead magnets. Instead of treating your audience like a single static persona, we're going to explore what happens when you build an evolving journey, one that grows with your customer. So keep that in mind, an evolving journey. That's what we're going to talk about today. So whether you've mapped out your customer journey before, or this might be brand new to you, so you're looking through a brand new lens, this conversation will shift the way you think about content, conversions, and long-term growth. Because when you get this right, you stop chasing sales and you start attracting aligned buyers who grow with you. And the ripple effect, it touches everything. And I'm talking from how you structure your offers to how you write copy, how you prioritize your content, how you make CEO level decisions, all of it. So if you're solo, then the clarity today, it will eliminate the guesswork. And if you're building a team, it becomes your internal roadmap. And if you're already leading a team, it keeps every department aligned and moving forward with the same vision. So, my question to you is, what if your biggest growth opportunity isn't a new funnel, but rethinking how your customer actually moves through your business? I want to repeat that one more time because that's what we really want to focus on today. What if your biggest growth opportunity had nothing to do with a new webinar, a new strategy, a new funnel, or whatever, but it had everything to do with rethinking how your customer actually moves through your business? So, your customer journey is the full experience someone has with your brand, not just the sales process, like the full experience. And most businesses treat their ideal customer avatar, their ICA, like a single frozen snapshot. But if you don't evolve with your customer, she or he will likely outgrow you. Now, that might be okay with you. We're going to talk about that. But if you don't love that idea, then I've got a different way to look at it. So here's what you're going to walk away with today: a fresh lens on your ideal customer avatar journey and how to apply it across your business and why it makes every part of growth more intentional. Now, I want to stop here because I'm going to give you an idea today that may or may not work in your business. I'm going to show you how to take your ideal customer avatar and take them on a journey through multiple offers as they continue to grow with your business. However, you might think, wait a second, Amy, I just help people at one snapshot in their life. And that is okay. So if you say, wait, I only help parents who have toddlers that are picky eaters. Once they're out of the toddler stage, I don't support them anymore. I'm going to support that all day long. You know who you serve and how you serve them. And you're well aware that as that child grows, you're not going to support them in other areas. You've got this one snapshot, and that's what you're going all in with. And that is an absolute great way to grow and scale a business. I'm all for it. But there is a different way, and this is a different way I haven't gotten to talk about on the podcast. It's a little bit more advanced. It's a little bit more sophisticated in some ways. And definitely, you could look at it as a little bit more work, but it's a different concept that I just thought I've got to share with you because I'm loving it in my business. Like, I'm obsessed with it. And I got to stop and give my girl, Julie Solomon, all the credit. So you all know that I have something called the Millie Club, right? I help 30 women at a time go from 5 or 600K in their business. They've already gotten to that mark to reach $1 million in their business in one calendar year. So we work together in terms of what does it look like to get there. So I do my live events in Nashville, and Julie and I both live in Nashville. So I asked her to come to my Millie event. And at that Millie event, she was presenting on messaging and branding and visibility. But there was this one segment of her presentation where she talked about having one ideal customer avatar, but different phases of that ideal customer avatar. I'm just going to say that ICA, different phases, and I'll explain it a little bit more in a moment. But I was sitting there thinking I was just watching something, not really taking notes. I know her content well. But when she said that, I looked at Brittany, one of the gals that works with me in my company, and I'm like, holy cow, what? Wait a second. There's a whole different way to reimagine my customer journey and my ideal customer avatar. And the reason why I got really excited is because for years, I would help people grow their email list and then create a digital course. But because I've helped so many people and many of them have gotten really big results, they've gone on to build bigger businesses and have different needs and different wants that I wasn't offering. And that's okay. I don't have to continue to serve my ideal customer avatar if I don't want to. But I started to think, wait a second. I have the skills, the knowledge, the know-how, the experience to help someone beyond where I'm helping them now. Because before, once you created a successful digital course, you can keep creating that course in my membership momentum and we can continue to make your launches bigger and better. But I had nothing else to offer after that. And for years, to be quite honest, I loved that. I didn't want to offer anything afterwards. That's another thing. The greatest thing about being an entrepreneur is you get to decide what you offer, how you offer it, when you offer it. I love the freedom of that. So for many years, I was content. I was good with just offering what I offered until I wasn't. There was this calling inside of me that I wanted to serve in a bigger way. I wanted to continue to teach people how to create and launch digital courses, but I wanted to go beyond that as well, in addition. And so that was on my heart last year. I knew something stirring in me for the first time, and I didn't want to ignore it. And then I was at that event, my Millie Club event. Little did I know I was going to learn something incredibly valuable to me. And thanks to Julie Solomon, who I'm going to have her come on the show, we're going to talk about this even further, along with many other topics that she specializes in because this one area, it's just kind of changed my whole business. So I thought I would share it with you. And again, the big caveat is maybe this isn't for you. Or maybe you hear this now and it won't be 3, 4, maybe 5 years till you actually implement something like this, but it will always be in the back of your mind. I wish I knew about this sooner because I would look through a lens differently as I grew my business, but you might not be ready for this. You might not want this, but maybe you do. And so I thought, well, we're just going to throw it out there and we'll see how it lands. So, first of all, I have an ICA. I have one ICA, one ideal customer avatar, and her name is Hank. Now, Hank is not a normal name for a woman. I realize this, but essentially it's basically my nickname in the company. This is very silly, but many years ago, my CEO, one day she needed my middle name for something we were working on a legal document. And she said, "What's your middle name?" And I jokingly said, "It's Hank." And so she is like, "All right." So she has called me Amy Hank Porterfield for years now. So Hank essentially has just been my nickname in the company. But when I decided to change my ICA completely at the very beginning of this year, the only name I could think for her was Hank because I guess just Hank reminds me of me because it is me in my company. And it reminds me of me even when I was first getting started, like when I had to be scrappy and I started to be ambitious and I started to really figure out like who I was and what I wanted to be. And then all the way up to today, like who I am. So just I don't know, she had a special place in my heart, and when we decided to reimagine our ICA this year, I'm like, there's no other name for her than Hank. So her name is Hank. Now, when I say her, there's also men in my programs as well. So I just kind of had to choose someone, and I tend to have more women than men in my programs. So I'm going to say that my ICA is a woman, but men are welcome in my programs as well. Just wanted to put that caveat there. So anyway, we named her. And that's the first thing I want to make sure you do, that you choose a name for your ideal customer avatar. Now, in the past, I had multiple avatars, multiple women and different names for them and different stories for each of them. I built out stories for each of them. So I had one ICA for my list building course. I had a whole other different ICA, a different woman for my digital course academy program. And then I had another ICA for another program we had. But then I thought, wait a second, what if it was the same person just moving through the customer journey with us? And that got me really excited. And so, first of all, we named her. From there, we started to build her out. And so, really, now when I think of Hank, everything I do, everything I create, every decision I make around my content, it is for Hank. It just means Hank at a different phase or different place in her life. Okay, so I have 4 different phases of Hank in my business. So I essentially have 4 different ideal customer avatars. They're all the same person, but they're at different phases in their journey of building their business. So Hank 1, she's still in her 9 to 5 job. She's dipping her toe into the entrepreneurial world. She's starting maybe to create a little free content online. She's very out of her element. Everything feels overwhelming. She's excited and stressed out at the same time, but she's kind of just finding her way. Like, she might have found me through my book 2 weeks notice or started listening to my podcast, but she's still likely in a 9 to 5 job. And then we have Hank 2. So Hank 2 actually has quit her 9 to 5 job. She's full-time in her business. She's making 6 figures, maybe just 100K, just barely making 6 figures, but she is drowning in to-dos and decision fatigue. So I have a full story about each of these. I'm just giving you a little snapshot. And then Hank 3, she's a multi 6 figure earner and she's ready to scale. So she's making at least probably 500K. She's quit her job. She has a small team. Maybe they're all contractors, but she has people working with her. And she is feeling a little bit stuck because she wants to scale and she knows she can't keep doing what she's been doing in order to get to the next level, but she's not really sure how to get to that next level. So she's thinking like leadership and how to create the right systems and operations and really how to build the right team. And then I have Hank 4. And Hank 4 is a 7 figure CEO. She's focused on building her legacy, growing her team, building out a leadership team, and protecting her time and energy. She's done really, really well, but she wants to continue to do well. She wants to scale, but not at the cost of her freedom, her sanity, her time with her family, all that good stuff. And what's interesting about the 4 different Hanks is that not everything changes when they go to the next phase. Like Hank 1, 2, 3, and 4, they all want freedom. But what freedom means to each of them evolves as they grow. So this ICA, the whole goal is that she grows alongside our offers. She grows within our company. We get to support her from, I'm still in a 9 to 5 job and I'd really like to start my own thing, to I have $1 million business and I want to continue and grow it and create a legacy. So essentially, I've changed my business so that I can actually grow with my ICA. So if you have come into my world and you're still in a 9 to 5 job and you're starting to figure it out, well, in a few years, my friend, we could be working together in my mastermind called Made to Scale. And it's for women that are already at the $1 million mark and looking to scale and grow and create legacy. Like, we could be working together years down the road when you get there, if you choose to go that far. Because some of my Hanks, they don't want to make $1 million in their business. They'd be happy with a few $100,000 a year and a lot of freedom, a lot of flexibility. So some of my Hanks won't go all the way to Hank 4, and that's okay. And some might choose to work with someone else after they hit a certain point, and that's okay. But many of them will choose to stay on this journey with me as I get better and better at communicating, at messaging, at really bringing her into my world, and most importantly, supporting her. So, I just wanted to share that that's why this layered ICA strategy is so powerful. It allows me to speak directly to where my customer is right now. So, again, this might not be for you, but one of the goals of my new podcast, The Amy Porterfield Show, is to show you different ways to run your business, to take you behind the scenes in mine and show you what I'm doing, and really just allow you to see different opportunities so that you might have a spark of, you might not do what I'm doing here, but you might change how you're doing something that's not working and make it better. And if I could be that spark on this show, I'm here for it all day long. So, I want to address the fact that I have always taught less is more. And for years and years, I've said you only need one digital course in order to make a really great living. And I believe that. But that's for those who are just getting started, Hank 1 and Hank 2. But sometimes at the end of Hank 2, as she goes into Hank 3, or if she is Hank 3 or 4, she wants to evolve. She wants to evolve because she is different as a marketer. You are different. If you've been in the game for a few years, you are wildly different than when you started, right? And so, over the years of building your business, you're going to have new interests, new things you want to dive into. And what I don't want you to do is start creating a bunch of random things because you're bored or you're burned out and you want to try something different. So, you go all willy nilly in your company, and someone's like, I don't even know who she is anymore or what she offers or what her messaging is. You don't want to do that. And so I want you to be really mindful if you start to add to your business because you're going to expand the journey of your ICA. I want you to be really mindful of it. So I want to share with you what it looks like in my business. So as you know, I've always had a list building course. And we're recently sunsetted List Builder Society, and we have a brand new course called 1 Hour Offer. And the 1 Hour Offer, it's all about list building and how to make money with a small list. And so I feel as though I was ready to evolve beyond just list building. And so have my students. They're in a place that they don't just need to grow their list, they need to make money now. I've heard you all loud and clear if you're in that stage of wanting to grow your email list. So the 1 Hour Offer, that takes list building to a whole new level. So that is my introductory course. And then, of course, I have Digital Course Academy, which is what I offer every September. And it's my bread and butter. It's what I'm known for. It's what I love to teach. And I know it gets people huge results. So I offer Digital Course Academy every September. But last year, I added a mastermind. And so my mastermind is called Made to Scale. And it's for 20 women who are making at least $1 million. But when I was filling up my mastermind, and I've talked about this on the show once before, but when I was filling up my mastermind, I looked at all the applications and realized there's a lot of women in my community that are at that 500, 600K mark, and they just haven't experienced $1 million year yet. And I believe if you want it, that's a really big milestone. You don't have to want it, my friend. You don't have to ever go that far in your business to be successful. So I think that's an important message. I need to stop and let you hear that. Whatever success looks like to you, I'm going to celebrate and support. But there are some women in my community that want to get to that $1 million year, and I know how to help them get there. So when I was looking over the applications, I'm like, wait a second, there's a whole other community in here that I can serve. And that's how the Millie Club came about. So now I have 1 Hour Offer. And then those who go through 1 Hour Offer, they'll be ready to then go through Digital Course Academy and create a bigger, more profitable course. And I have then a membership called Momentum. I've had it for years. And the only way you get into Momentum is if you go through Digital Course Academy and you want to continue on the journey with me of creating and launching your course and relaunching and relaunching. And then I have the Millie Club and the Made to Scale Mastermind. Now, I'm the girl who always says you don't need a lot of offers, and I still stand behind it. I've also been in business for 16 years. I've been doing this for a while, and I've evolved, I've matured, I've changed. And so I have this desire to serve in a bigger way. not let go of my foundation of what I'm really known for and what I love to do and the people I love to serve, but expand beyond that. And so this idea that I could take one ICA and I can plot out 4 different phases for her and actually offer her something along the way, that's exciting to me. I've really enjoyed creating the Millie Club. I've loved working with my mastermind members, and I still love working with my newbies inside the 1-hour offer, and I still love teaching people how to create and launch a course. And some of the people in my Millie Club are launching their first course for the first time because they made money in different ways. So Digital Course Academy, it serves people that are a little bit newer and people that are a little bit more advanced. So that's kind of a special thing about Digital Course Academy. So a few episodes back, Jenna Kutcher and I were talking about how launch models were changing and we're experimenting, we're adapting and trying new things, which is why I felt like it was time to try out the Millie Club or the Mastermind just to see how I felt. Now, truth be told, if I didn't enjoy those things, I wouldn't do them again. I just happen to be loving them. So we're in our second cohort of the Millie Club that starts in, I think, a week from now. And I'm only 6 months into my mastermind, and I love those women so very much. And so it's been really fun to get to see them shine as well. But if I didn't love it, because I'm in a stage of experimenting and trying new things, and because I feel like online marketing and the online landscape is changing dramatically right now, we're seeing in some cases lower conversions or harder to get people to, pay attention on social media because it's so congested. And so things are just shifting. And so I'm paying attention to say, okay, I'm watching the shifts. I'm going to learn what's working today, and I'm going to teach all of you through my podcast and my programs. But because things are shifting, I thought there's no better time than now to try some new things and experiment. And so more feels like less in my company. And what I mean by that is I'm being strategic. I feel like my offers are aligned. They make sense for the bigger ecosystem. So I've added more, but it feels more effortless because I've been really intentional and mindful. So more can be good when the timing is right, when you're ready, when it feels like the right thing to do in your gut, and you have the bandwidth or team to support you along this way. I have a team. And so that makes it easier for me to try new things. So maybe it's not time for you to add, but at least you have heard this conversation. It's in the back of your mind, and it might come at one point or another when you and your audience are ready. And again, it often happens when you feel like you've evolved and you've shifted and you're ready for the next level. I was ready for the next level, but it took me 16 years to say that. So there is no rush, my friend. Do I wish I did this sooner? Not necessarily. What I was doing, it worked for me. It felt right, but I was ready. And you do not have to wait 16 years to expand your ICA's journey. You could do that today if it's calling to you. So don't take my 16 years as, oh, I've got to wait a long time to do this. You don't, but I want you to be strategic and intentional. So let's talk about how this can shape your entire business. So again, we changed how we structure our product suite and looked at, okay, can we go on this journey? And we created the programs to allow us to go on the journey with our ICA. We've had to shift our messaging, our funnels, our team roles to support each Hank specifically. I actually forgot to say this, so I'm going to go back a little bit. Remember when I said I built out an entire guide for each of my Hanks, Hank 1, 2, 3, and 4? Well, I used ChatGPT and I fed it a lot of information about my business, about who I serve, about all of my products. I uploaded transcripts of all of my courses. I gave it all the information I knew to give it, like a novel. And then I asked it to help me build out one Hank at a time. So I started with Hank 1 and I said, okay, ask me the questions you need to ask me so we can build out a full guide of who she is, what she needs, what keeps her up at night, what is she worried about, what does she want, how does she learn, who does she follow online? And all of that. So some of them were assumptions, but Hank 1, I've been working with her for 16 years, so I know her well. But it was like a 4-page guide to who this woman was. Then I moved on to Hank 2, 3, and 4. And again, there were some overlapping similarities between all of them, or at least Hank 1 and Hank 2, or Hank 2 and Hank 3. So there was some overlap. But if you use ChatGPT in a really specific way and you really give it the information it needs, it can help you put together your first guide of your ICA. Then what I did is I finished Hank 1 and I fed it back as a PDF and I said, okay, take this same format and help me flesh out Hank 2. And we went back and forth, back and forth. So all of my guides look the same in terms of the different sections of the guide, but obviously the information is different. So the reason I tell you that is now when we're writing, the team and I will say, okay, so this is for Hank 2. And we've got to remember Hank 2 is this, this, and that. So this doesn't make sense because that's Hank 3. So we now can talk in a way, a code essentially of who we're serving. And so we have to really dial in our messaging and make sure that each program we know who it's for. This helped us also get really intentional about entry points into my world. So, the entry points into my world, meaning the different funnels that I've built, now I know who they're targeted to. I know how to speak to each person in that funnel. I know what I'm offering. So, that became really, really clear. And I'm just really grateful for that. So essentially, one thing to think about is your audience isn't always starting from scratch. Like if you did a Hank 1, 2, 3, and 4, you might just have a Hank 2 and 3. Maybe you're not helping people starting from the beginning, but this is whatever you make it in your business. I'm giving you my version because I promised to take you behind the scenes in this new podcast platform that I have. But now you're going to rework it and say, okay, that's interesting, Amy. Here's how I'm going to reimagine what my ICA looks like. So let's talk about how you would apply this to your business. So there's 3 questions to reflect on. Number 1, am I still speaking to my ICA like she or he is in the same phase she was a year ago? So that's an interesting question. So you're serving an ICA. She might still be in your world, but do you now need to talk to her or him differently? That might mean that you can add something to kind of continue your relationship with that person. So that's just one thing to think about. Another thing to ask is, have I created clear next steps for her or him as they grow with the offers that I have? So if you have certain offers, do those offers make sense for them to go from here to here to here? Now, you might say, no, Amy, and I don't want it that way. I have this course for this type of person. I've got this course for that type of person, and they're never going to overlap. If that works for you, fantastic. But if you're struggling, if you never know how to put together your messaging, if you're really unclear, well, you've got to think about how can I get more flow in my business? So here's something interesting with this podcast. Remember when I went from Online Marketing Made Easy to the Amy Porterfield Show, and I talked about how I want to have elevated conversations on this new podcast. I said, I've evolved, you have evolved, we've been together for many years. I want to start having more intermediate type conversations beyond just how to grow an email list. Now, that doesn't mean that I stop teaching my beginner students how to grow an email list. I still do that. I just talk less about that on this podcast. Now, I've got 750 plus episodes on the Online Marketing Made Easy podcast that are still incredibly new and relevant and will help anybody just starting out building a business. But for the Amy Porterfield Show, I typically have Hank 2 and Hank 3 in mind when I do this show. But I know that Hank 1, she's aspirational. She likes to be around people that are doing bigger things than her. She likes to hear what's possible for when she gets there. So I know Hank 1 is listening. And sometimes I'll throw or sprinkle in some different topics or some different opportunities for her. But also, I know she gets immense value, even if some of the topics I talk about are a little bit beyond where she is. And so that's the beautiful thing of one ICA, that they're not super rigid, that Hank 1 wouldn't find value in this podcast, even though a lot of the content I'm gearing toward Hank 2 and Hank 3 and beyond. So isn't that fascinating how that can work? And it's served me really well. Our downloads have been really good and staying strong with the new podcast. So You're all welcome here. It's just you'll navigate through the content differently. You'll look at it through a different lens. You'll think about it in different ways. And I love that. So, the final question you can ask is, are my entry points aligned with the version of the person I most want to serve? So, getting them into your world, do you have different touch points for different ICAs? Or if you're going to do what I'm doing and you have one ICA that grows with you, do you have different entry points for her to come in? And so sometimes it can be tricky. And a lot of the times for what I have for Hank 3 and 4, they're small groups. I don't have a huge program for them. So I'm not marketing to them publicly a lot. I typically market to Hank 1, 2, and a little bit of Hank 3 on a regular basis because I've got the programs, the digital courses for them. But the Millie Club and the Mastermind, those are really small groups. So I tend to do that email only or invite only. So I'm not blasting my list with messages that don't even relate to who they are or what they want. See how that works? So it's not like I have to fully market to all Hanks at all times. No, that's not how it works. And some of my marketing is under the radar and not so public. And that's great as well. So why don't we make this actionable? One, you might just say, that was interesting, Amy. I like to hear how other people build out their customers' journeys. I'm going to stick to what I'm doing now, but maybe in the future I might think about it. Great. But some of you are listening like, wait a second, I want to do that. I think that would be really cool. So here's how you get started. First of all, look at your ICA and say, is there a place that I could back up and serve her earlier? And is there a place that I could serve her beyond what I'm serving now? And the most important question is, do I want to? Does that light me up? Does that make me excited? Because if it doesn't, I'd rather you fine tune the funnels you have, work on the ICA you're already serving, learn how to talk to her or him better, and increase your conversions of what you're doing now. But if your soul calls to doing something different, then consider it. Also, I want you to map out your content in your offers and say, okay, do I have different phases in a customer journey? What's missing or what might I want to add? So, kind of look at your offers right now and the content you create. Do you have any desire to build that out? And then identify where you might be missing the mark, where you'd be really excited to fill in that opportunity with a new offer or new conversations that you want to have. So I think that's what's really fun. It really is, does this move you? Does this get you excited? I freaking love it, but other people want to run their businesses differently, and I'm going to support that all day long. So just something to think about. But I will say, to wrap up, your ICA, he or she, they are evolving and they might evolve and move on from you. And that is okay. For 15 years, that's what happened to me. And I built a multi-million-dollar business. That is okay. But my heart, my mind started saying, I'm ready for more. I'm ready to up level. I'm ready to challenge myself. So if you feel that way as well, do not ignore it. And maybe it's time for some journaling. Maybe start to think like, who do I serve? And do I want to go beyond that? And how could I serve them beyond that or before? You could back up and say, actually, there's a whole phase of my ICA that I could easily teach. I could back up and teach her here so she's more likely to get into the program I have now. I'm going to do an episode about a bridge offer. And a bridge offer is essentially, it's coming up on the podcast. It's essentially your feeder course into your bigger course. A bridge offer could actually back up and meet your ICA before they're ever ready to get into your bigger offer that you have now. So when I talk about a bridge offer on this podcast, come back to these different phases. I'll remind you when I do the episode so you can see how a beginner offer could actually expand the phases of your ICA. Just something to think about. But if this is calling to you, I want you to start thinking about what might this look like. And again, you might not need to change anything, and what you're doing works for you. I have some gals in the Millie Club and the Mastermind where they just meet someone at one specific time in their life and they're doing great. But they might get to a point where they've evolved and they want to go beyond that. And an episode like this could really serve them. Maybe, maybe not, but I hope you found value. So, my friend, make sure to go out and take action if this episode spoke to you. And if you have any entrepreneurial friends that you're like, whoa, I think my friend would really love this episode. She's kind of struggling to make sales right now. Things aren't really clicking. Maybe something like this would allow her to see more of the path and be more intentional with her marketing or his marketing, him or her. So if you have a friend that you think would find this valuable, would you please share it with them? And if you've ever loved this podcast, will you give me a review? As you know, reviews really make a difference for podcasters. I rarely ask for them, but I'd be forever grateful if you like this podcast and you can leave a review and let me know what you think. All right, my sweet friends, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Take care.